This is one of Disney's biggest films behind Frozen and is loved by loads of people all over the world. Although this could have been a very different story. A story that had loads of violence and a very different Scar. This is the original story, or should I say stories, of The Lion King. There were actually quite a lot of different drafts before the final version of The Lion King came up. The first draft was called The King of Kalahari, that's what they thought the film was going to be called. Only the first page of the script was scanned in, so that's all that we know about. On that first page, it's basically just saying about the lions going to hunt and then bringing back the food and eating it. It's nothing that interesting, to be honest. But we do know that it was basically going to be about a war between lions and baboons. Scar was actually a baboon and Rafiki was a cheetah. And Simba was actually still a lion, but he was just lazy and negative all the time, so he ended up being overthrown in that draft too. And it was made to feel very similar to a documentary. George Scribner, who was the person that directed Oliver and Company and was supposed to direct this film, actually wanted it to have a naturalistic feel. He wanted it to feel like a documentary and be kind of true to life. He wanted it to have little humour but feel a lot like a documentary, but that ended up being scrapped. So because that was scrapped, there needed to be new stories written, and there were actually two scripts that were made. By one writer by himself and another one by two writers who kind of collaborated together on it. So the first one came out in January of 1990, the other one came out in May of the same year. So these were basically what the stories were for them. So in the January 1990 version, Rafiki was called Kawashi. I mean, he wasn't exactly the same character, but it felt a lot like him. There was lots of animal eating in this one. It still had a kind of naturalistic feel to it, although not nearly as much as the first one. There's some different songs. For example, there's a whole song where Simba's mum sings Simba a lullaby about how he's going to be the next king. And in this version, as well as the next version, Scar's a much bigger 1.2 times the size of Mufasa. He's a really big lion. Although Scar still manages to be defeated in a battle that they initially have at the beginning, and at that point Scar joins up with Banagi, who's the leader of the hyenas. Scar then returns with the hyenas to battle Mufasa again. They overthrow Mufasa and Simba runs away as his dad is killed. Simba ends up in enemy territory. Nala, while she's at home and Scar's taken over just as he does in the final film, wants to approach him romantically for some reason. I don't know why after he just took her land, but whatever. But that doesn't end up happening, and Simba is still out of the Pride Land in enemy territory, and he asks the Lion in the Moon, which is what they were going to have at that point, as to how the Pride are doing. And while he's there complaining to the Lion in the Moon, Timon comes out, who's by himself and with a other group of meerkats, and he tells him that the meerkats are trying to sleep, basically. And while all that is happening, Kawashi, who's the Rafiki character, and Zazu are out looking for a new leader to take care of the Pride Lands to overthrow Scar. But they eventually find Simba and they want him to come back and take control of the Pride Lands because he was supposed to be king anyway. They also get the help of a rhino called Her Rhino. He is actually a pretty major character, even though he was axed in the final film. So as for the final battle, Simba orders the animals to dig a hole for Scar to fall into, and then Nala lures him into the hole. And on top of that, they do also bury Scar with dirt too, but he still manages to jump out and battle Simba. And during the battle, he ends up being basically squashed by a falling dead tree branch, and he dies. And then the same's the end. Simba grows up, he has a son, yada yada, and let's move on to the next one. So for the May 1991, Mufasa still ends up being straight up killed by Scar, who again is double the size of him, or not double, 1.5 the size of him. Timon again is with a group of meerkats, but there is actually a warthog in this. He isn't called Pumbaa as such, but he does try to kill Simba. Definitely different to the Pumbaa that's in the final film. This one also had a lot of the lions hunting for food and eating the food and that sort of stuff, really emphasizing the whole circle of life thing. And there's also a lot of talk in the script about different prides and how they interact together and how they kind of agree on boundaries and that sort of stuff, which isn't really mentioned in the final film at all. And as with the previous version, Pride Rock is still taken over by Scar, and Simba does have to try and take it back. Although the fight at the end is a lot different to the January version. In this version, Simba just basically ends up defeating Scar, and when the hyenas come, and because they stay loyal to Scar, and they try to defeat Simba too, Simba just ends up defeating them too. And yeah, those were the two kind of concrete scripts, although between those scripts and the final version of the film, there were a lot of extra changes that were made too. So, as I said before, there were loads of characters that were taken out, like loads of them. And at one point, Simba was actually going to be raised by Scar, although they cancelled that. And Simba and Nala were going to be made to be cousins. And at one point, they were also kind of made to be siblings in a way, because they were both raised by Mufasa, so they weren't blood siblings, although they were always together and basically siblings. Although that would have been really weird because they do actually get married at the end. Not if you're going to be real to how lions actually act in the wild, but for a movie, yeah, it's a bit kind of weird. There was also a Be Prepared reprise, along with a deleted scene that I've linked down in the description down below.
Ancestors' genes, so prepare for a glorious future.
So this was going to be between the point where Scar takes over Pride Rock and where Nala goes and finds Simba. And it was going to be kind of like in the January 1990 script where Nala approaches Scar romantically. It's kind of the other way around. Scar wants to have cubs with Nala, but Nala refuses. And if you just watch it, you'll see for yourself. But because Scar then banished Nala from the Pride Rock because she didn't want to have cubs with him, that's kind of how Nala ended up going out and finding Simba, so it kind of fills in the gap there. Although this did actually stick around in the Broadway version of The Lion King, where there's a similar sort of song which is called The Madness of Scar. The ending also had a different version too, even from the other two scripts. There was just loads of versions for The Lion King. So there was actually a version where it's similar to what happens in the final film, but instead of Scar getting thrown over the edge, Simba's thrown over the edge. He isn't harmed when he's thrown over the edge, but the flames that Scar started, as in the final film, end up engulfing him and killing him while he's there laughing menacingly. This was seen to be a bit too dark for the film, so they changed it to the version that you have now, but that is a really freaky ending. Again, that's linked in the description too, because there's some storyboards of it there. There were a lot of songs that were taken out and put in too, and The Circle of Life wasn't actually originally going to happen at the beginning of the film, but because of how powerful they felt it was, they decided to have it at the beginning, and they actually had it as the trailer for the film too. But yeah, originally there was going to be just some dialogue from the main characters at the beginning of the film. It wasn't going to be as massive as The Circle of Life is at the beginning. But yeah, that's the original story of The Lion King. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section down below if you like this type of series. I felt like it would be a good idea to do because we often don't know what kind of goes into the development of these films. So be sure to let me know. Be sure to like this video if you liked it and subscribe to see more of these types of videos as well as movie reviews. So I hope you all have a great day. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.